It is. Yeah. So you roll a slab. It's not too thick. And you want at least 2.5 inches. At least 2.5 inches wide to be able to roll it around. Just make a rectangle. Use this to fill the edges. And I score them. I don't put any slip or anything on them yet, so that they don't get too mushy when you're working with them.
Oh, sorry.
And you could use a dowel, just something to get it rolling. A dowel, fat dowel is better, just to get it rolling around. And this is a good beginning, like if you're teaching, this is a good start to a hollow handle. Then you can start tapering them, and you do the same thing, and you can just change the way that they work. And you just kind of get it over. I always say it's like manicotti, you know, it's like stuff it with some cheese. And it's all about cooking. Anyway, just dampen that.
Well, if it was a noodle, it wouldn't need foam, would it? What would it be?
No, it wouldn't need foam. It would
would
just
just
need
work.
teeth.
Oh.
Chewing. So just get that, and then just roll that seam a little bit, and I roll it a little bit flat. Like that. So then you can take this and use it as a side handle without any kind, like just a simple curve like that.
Yeah.
You could also, if you made it bigger, I've used these as overhead handles, like on teapots or baskets. You can just use it like that. And then what I often do if I'm doing, like if I do a baker that has side lugs or even side handles, depending on the nature of the pot, I take a stick and I push down on the foam like that, and it creates this really nice little edge. And you can, I've also used that as like an overhead handle, or you could use it as a side handle. You can determine where you want to place those little notches to be able to, you know, like if you wanted it to be a side handle, you know, you could place it like that. So you can play around with it and get it so that it's where you want it. And these look really good on the sides of casseroles. So you let them stiffen up and you do like an angle cut. And then they set very nicely as a lug on a baking dish. So it's a really multi-purpose handle, and most beginners can do this. And then the other handles that I used to do before I knew how to pull handles right from the cup, whenever I would get on the wheel, I got on the wheel and learned the wheel, and then decided, you know, that wasn't really for me because I hated sitting, and none of them were standing, and then the slabs just was like dough. But when I did throw, I didn't know how to make handles, so I liked the handles that I would see people pull, but I couldn't do it, so I tried to devise my own way of doing handles that kind of mimicked a handle that was pulled. So I just make a coil. And this is really good if you have beginners on the wheel, because most people, after a few weeks, can throw like a basic mug, but then the handle thing, you have to make like 50 mugs to teach. And most students are not going to do that in 3 hours. So I tell them 20 if they want to learn it, and then 20 more. But if they want to move that mug through and just have the mug, then I'll show them a handle like this. And you can taper this as well. I generally like a handle that's out and then in and then out at the bottom, but I'll do the tapered one. So I have that. And then you get I visually try to find the center of that. Eyeball that center. And you can take a dowel or a stick like this, and I'll put it at that center point and roll outward. like that. And then take it at that center point and roll outward like that.
Oh.
So it's me trying to copy throne handles. I always like the ones that had a little bit of a, especially the double thing where you could almost see somebody's thumb coming down it. And then you kind of wet pull it. You kind of stick it down on the surface, and because throwing is wet, this is not the right sponge. It's too groovy. And I don't mean in a hip way. And I just try to make it look wet. I do that a little bit to take that notch down, and then I'll trim it, and I'll give it a little bit of shape. And then wet pull it some more, because it, even now, I mean, when I throw teapots and stuff, I never throw spouts and handles. I always just hand build them. But when I throw cups, now I know how to make a handle. But I like making slab built handles, so I just keep doing it until it looks wet, like a pulled handle. And I use my finger in there, and then pull this around and wet that side.
Oh, sorry.
It sounds like a Dream of Jeannie music or something.
It's magic.
And then, so it looks kind of wet, and it's a little sloppy because I'm going quickly. But it looks wet, and for a beginner, they can make a handle that's not a total mess. And then the other